So in part 17 of the essentials, looking at essential oils, their history and their use. First of all, just a reminder that this is informational, educational in nature, and that is just another health tool that you can put in your wellness and health care, personal health care tool belt that you can use when needed or share with others as appropriate. It's not medical advice, and anything that you come across that is with respect to anything you do, you should do your own due diligence on and make sure that it's going to work out for what its intended purpose is for you. And while every attempt is made to be as complete as possible, it's not exhaustively comprehensive information, but will definitely provide a stepping stone to learning more. So tonight we're going to look at the rose, Rosa damascena. So it's the rose has been used in a wide variety of ways throughout history. The rose family, within the rose family are things like apple. It has been used culinary ways as well as in medicinal ways, and in this case as an essential oil. Cleopatra is well known for having used it. Egyptian pharaohess Josephine de Behanarius, the wife of Napoleon I, also is well known for having utilized rose and the aromatic qualities of the rose. And the Romans were famous for using rose in their various parties and feasts and the like. So it's been used throughout history for a long period of time. So there's a long history of use and safety associated with it. So the part of the rose that's used for essential oil is the flowers and the petals. So here's a pile of petals, and there are different colors, of course. And it's extracted through a steam distillation process, as many of the essential oils are. Not all of them, but many are. The key molecules are ceranol, which is the upper molecule, geranol, which is the middle long molecule there. And notice that really the only difference between those two molecules is the presence of a double bond at the omega-2 end of the molecule, the hydroxyl end, which changes its conformation a little bit and flips the methane group to the other side. So there's just a slight structural variation, but that slight structural variation is what makes that molecule unique and function differently. Nerol is another one, and that's the far right lower molecule. And again, it's actually the same, similar kind of arrangement, but a slightly different configuration of the double bond. It's not a completely linear fashion. It actually moves into almost moving into a modified ring. And you can see on the lower left that there is the difference between nerol and geranol. Structurally, that's just actually the flipping of that methane group and the hydroxyl group in a different position. So it's a slight variation, just a twist. And it has a different name because it has different activity. And that's one of the challenges of pharmacology, is making molecules in such a way that they have the activity that's intended. And we know that even among this, just getting a molecule in this fashion is challenging enough, let alone the fact that molecules are mirror images of each other when attempted to be made synthetically. There are L forms and D forms. The L form, you can think of L standing for life, D standing for death, although they aren't necessarily deadly, but the L form is the form that is bioactive in our species, in humankind, and other animals and living things. That's the L form, not the D form. And our bodies recognize that, and they use the L form. They make the L form preferentially selectively without mistakes. Whereas when man tries to synthesize it, it's often a 50-50 mix of D and L. And so it's not pure from one form to the next. And that just really points out the specificity of the creative wonder of God's creation, that our bodies know how to assemble those appropriately in the right configuration, and that those slight modifications, variations have profound differences in effect because form and function go straight together. If there's a change in the form, there's going to be a change in the function. And that's essentially a law of molecular science, of organic chemistry and biology, is that structure and function go together. And this is just a very subtle structure. So that also goes into just the whole genetic analysis. Many say that we have a very high percentage of DNA that's very similar to chimpanzees, but that doesn't have anything to do with any common descent. It just says that we have a similar designer, and that it doesn't take much different molecular arrangement to have a completely different functioning molecule and or organism that is derived from that. So lots of things to think about in the specificity and the fine-tuning of the molecular structure that the God has put into plants and how they function in our bodies. So key properties, the rose essential oil can have antidepressant properties, actually can have aphrodisiac properties, which is something I found interesting in that roses are often the flower given to loved ones in quantity, a dozen or 2 dozen roses at a time, or variations on that, and just the aroma can have some positive effects in that department. It's antispasmodic, basically helping smooth muscles to not spasm. It can be a emmenagogue, which essentially is a blood flow stimulant or can initiate the onset of menses or menstrual period, and also have some sedative effects associated with it, and has a general tonic effect. So a tonic is something that tends towards wellness or tends towards health, and it can be a powerful effect over time, and is just a good quality that the rose has. Like many oils, it blends well with some other oils. It doesn't blend well with all oils, but there are 3 here that are noted. We've talked about 2 of them already, the lavender and the geranium, but the sandalwood is another one that it blends well and can be used in combination with. So it has a sedative effect, and lavender is known for its calming effects too, and in combination can be a wonderful way to help soothe the nerves and bring one into a state of a more calm approach to things around them. As far as safety, similar to lavender in the fact that it's useful for neat application. That means you can use it straight on the skin without having to dilute it with a carrier oil. And one thing you should be careful of is avoiding its use during pregnancy. You don't want to, especially early on in pregnancy, you don't want to have a starting of a period during pregnancy, and it could have that effect or blood flow stimulation, and that would not go well with pregnancy. So something to stay away from during that period of time as a woman. So key uses, it increases libido. We talked about that already from the form of the perspective of aphrodisiac. It's one of the key issues is circulation, and it does help with circulation. So circulation is the canary in the coal mine, so to speak. So here's a picture of a canary. We know that canaries were set down in wells and in coal mines. They would be asphyxiated by gas, the noxious gases, if they were present. If not, they would come up safely, and then the miners could go down without having to disperse the gas. So a decrease in libido is often a sign of poor circulation, which can come from clogged arteries, from actually a variety of sources. Internal clotting that can be initiated by medications or other proposed therapeutic modalities, but more commonly from things like atherosclerosis that hits different people in different parts of their body. It's kind of the weak parts of their body. So for some person, it may be a decrease in libido. Another, it may be a heart attack or decreased circulation in other areas, but it can be a precursor. So you can use it to aromatically diffuse into the room, as well as topical application over the heart area or the navel area. The essential oil of rose can also help with scars, wounds, and wrinkles. So just use it neat on the areas of issue. So here are a couple pictures of individuals who had some severe scarring and bruising, and after a period of time, of using the rose essential oil topically. So the B picture in the 2 columns there is the after picture. Before, there's some contusions and bruising associated there, even some yellowing with the bruising, and that goes away. I don't have an exact amount of time during which this was applied and these results were seen, but the before and after are helpful to see and demonstrate the effect of rose essential oil on helping skin tissue heal. It can be helpful for mitigating grief and depression. It's helping it not to be quite so intense, aromatically diffused in the room, and also can be topically applied to the back of the neck and over the heart.
Exactly, Herman.
If someone is experiencing irregular ovulation, it can be applied, the rose essential oil can be applied to the abdominal area, and that can help with bringing the ovulatory component back into irregularity. Seizures, a topical application to the back of the neck can help with seizures. So this could be something to have on hand. You never, I mean, you don't know, at least know that it has that potential to help someone with seizures. There can be different things that can cause the onset of seizures, but it's always nice to have something around that you know you have that can help with that. Facial redness, essentially that's from exposed capillaries, and that can often happen in someone who has had a history of alcohol or other types of abuse or use. Exposure can have those capillaries exposed right on the surface of the skin and a redness that is accompanying it. So topical application of the rose essential oil in a neat fashion again can help with that. Impotence and low sperm count in men, topical application to the navel area can also have some benefit on that. So it's beneficial for both men and women in those areas of general aphrodisiac. So a fast fact about rose essential oil: it takes 12,000 blossoms to make 5 milliliters of the essential oil. That's a lot of blossoms. So it's very highly concentrated, and I don't know, I haven't looked for it as far as how it's sold, if it's sold in a 5 milliliter portion. Some things that have a higher volume to oil output do have a low volume at which they're sold, just because of its just the amount of material that's needed to actually obtain it, and so therefore it typically costs more too. But the average way that essential oil is sold is in a 15 milliliter aliquot. But the rose is referred to as the queen of flowers. Can also function as a digestive aid. So if you can use it topically, 2 to 3 drops applied over the stomach. So the stomach area, you can see that here. You can see the esophagus going in behind the heart. So when someone has heartburn, essentially they have an incompetent pyloric sphincter or esophageal sphincter, which is right there at the top of the stomach. And it's you can see there's a layer of muscle there. You see the liver, and then the heart. There's the diaphragm muscle there is keeping the lungs separated in the pleural cavity. And if there is a slip of that esophagus through that diaphragm muscle, it can result in GERD or the hiatal hernia, and can result in heartburn, essentially, which is stomach acid in the esophagus at the level of the heart. So one often thinks it's actually associated with the heart when it's stomach acid. So it can help with reducing anxiety and stress related to those digestive issues, and also help to reduce those GI issues. So some research surrounding the rose essential oil. So the relaxing effect of rose oil on humans by Hongret and Rokati, National Products Communications, 2009 in February. They noted that the rose essential oil decreased breathing rates significantly, so relaxed rather than hyperventilating, kind of helped to bring down a relaxed state. Decreased the blood saturation and systolic blood pressure. So that's not a negative thing as far as relaxation goes, but it's more of a sedative than a stimulant. And the subjects were calmer and more relaxed than the controls who did not use the rose essential oil. So the rose essential oil vapor attenuates or decreases or reduces depression-induced oxidative toxicity in rat brain. So they looked at, in 2013, the activity of oxidative stress and toxicity on rat brain tissue, and how the rose essential oil helped to slow that down and reduce it, essentially by having antioxidant effect that was promoted. So the depression treatment due to antioxidant flavonoids in the rose essential oil, and it helped to protect against overall depression. Some other research include the fact that essential oils and anxiolytic aromatherapy, so that in natural product communications again, in 2009. So that's aromatherapy that helps with anxiety. The metabolic responses to aerial diffusion of essential oils. So this basically was an article that looked at a lot of different types of essential oils and their metabolic profiles or outputs, and rose was included in that research to have benefits. The effects of prolonged rose odor inhalation in 2 animal models of anxiety. So there's a fair number of articles focused on anxiety and the benefits of rose essential oil, particularly aromatically, for the use in combating anxiety. So this was in the Physiology of Behavior in December of 2007. Then there's a randomized controlled trial, which is essentially the gold standard of doing scientific research. You're blinding and double blinding and randomizing the study groups. So this is an effect of a clinical aromatherapy for anxiety and depression in the high-risk postpartum woman, a pilot study. So that had some benefits that were noted in this pilot study. One thing with studies like this is they need to be carried out to completion. And then if you want to have long-term information, you need to continue the study on after the initial data is collected. We saw a complete breakdown of this process during the pandemic, when folks who were doing research basically conducted research to have outcomes that came in a positive way, shining positive light on a procedure, and designed experiments to have the results come out that way. And then if they weren't going the way that they intended, they just unrandomized and uncontrolled the trials and unblinded them, and essentially the data is useless because it essentially fell apart because it was not carried through with academic integrity. And so therefore any of that data is suspect and not reliable in any fashion. Rose geranium essential oil, so this is a combination, as a source of new and safe anti-inflammatory drugs. So this particular journal, Libyan Journal of Medicine, was looking at it as a particularly trying to extract some compounds from it for drug development. When you have the natural component already available, there's no need for a drug to take its place. Because again, when we talked about just the slight differences in molecular structure can significantly change its bioactivity. And when you try to synthetically derive something that nature has made, that God has made through nature, it just doesn't work the same. Then in 2012, in Chemical Senses, the effect of rose essential oil inhalation, so that's aromatherapy, on stress-induced skin barrier disruption in rats and humans. So that would be something, skin barrier disruption would be something like acne or rashes or some other type of integumentary system disruption. And then the Japanese Journal of Pharmacology in 2002, they looked at the effects of fragrance inhalation on sympathetic activity in normal adults. So we have sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. The sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight. So that's the anxiety-based responses to the world around you, versus parasympathetic is the rest and digest, the relaxation, the calming activities that take place. So they're looking at fragrance and just the benefits of having it aromatically diffused on anxiety and on the sympathetic nervous system. And then in the Biochemistry Open 2017, they looked at the chemical composition analysis of in vitro biological activities of 10 essential oils in human skin cells. So in vitro versus in vivo. In vitro is in the test tube or in the lab in a petri dish. In vivo would be actually looking at the person's skin and doing a quantitative or qualitative analysis of the subject's actual literal skin. But these are looking at skin cells in culture and noticed the benefits of 10 different essential oils. Among them was the rose.
To be aware of new videos like this one, be sure to subscribe to the Preparing for the Time of Trouble channel. For more free videos and downloadable audio podcasts, as well as handouts, go to www.preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com. Topic categories include recordings of live seminar presentations, country living, sustainable gardening, homestead remedies, how to be self-sufficient when the grid goes down, wild edible and medicinal plants, hydrotherapy, and end-time Bible prophecies. To take advantage of these free resources, go to preparingforthetimeoftrouble.com.